And, of course, we must think of the manipulatory possibilities of television. It has its own tremendous possibilities.
Violence broke out again last night as some young people were prevented from meeting peaceably in the downtown area by noticeably nervous, if not to say trigger-happy police. Frank Bushman, attorney for the young people who are to be arraigned in court tomorrow morning, pointedly remarked on this overreaction by the police.
I hereby declare this an unlawful assembly.
Late last night, disorder broke out among a small, unruly mob as our guardians of the peace quietly and efficiently, in spite of extreme provocation, restored order.
I command you to disperse, and if you do not, you shall be arrested for refusal to disperse. You have 2 minutes to disperse.
It is important that our courts make an example of these hoodlums and hand out the kind of sentences they so richly deserve.
We staged this scene. We filmed it to show that television can tell any story that it wants to tell. In both versions, the action was the same, and the actors did exactly the same things. However, the camera was placed differently. The editor edited differently, and the announcer told a different story. We would be naive not to realize that what we're seeing is an edited symbol. But the nature of TV is such, we see it with our own eyes, that we naturally look at it as though it were objective truth. For many, what they see on television is more true than what they see with their eyes in the external world. Mass media can be used by an authoritarian manipulating government or an elite. The elite gives the arbitrary absolutes, and then not only TV, but all the mass media can be used for manipulation. And a plot or conspiracy are not needed. All that is needed is that the people in the places of influence and those who decide what is the news have in common the modern results of humanism, the modern worldview, which we have considered at length in this series. when the perspective, the worldview of the elite coincides with some of the influential news carriers, it does not have to be all, then either consciously or unconsciously, the media becomes an instrument for manipulation.
Hey, what's up everybody? Just wanted to make a video, chew on a few thoughts, mumble on some musings, and boy, is it hard to get away from the whole non-stop progression of ritualistic junk just going on all over the place, and all these controlled narratives that are now overlapping and intermixing, obviously just the timing of everything. And you've got the lockdown, which goes on, and it's right on the verge of, we're phasing the reopening and all that. We're getting back to normal, but it's the new normal, of course. And contact tracing and introducing all these ideas and strategies and everything. And then we have this historic flight, the first flight in 9 years or whatever from U.S. soil. Or 11, is it 11 years? But it's this historic moment for America. Launch America. That just the slogan right there. And it's as we're relaunching the American economy and relaunching life and everyone's getting just itching to get out of their lockdowns and their quarantines and their socially distanced frustrations. Then we give them some hope and we give them something positive so it's a distraction and also a false narrative of its own. And the amazing thing is like how the fakery just is so, it's so textbook, right down to the loss of the video feed when the rocket lands. I mean, they have no shame. I don't even know anymore. I think this has to be intentional. Like, this is so sloppy. That can't be, the same astronaut who, however many years ago, busted for grabbing the guy's wire next to him. And here he's still the best choice for somebody to send into this privileged mission back to the space station. It's almost comical. But I mean, yeah, launch America. And it's, I'm sure, not news to anybody that the logo is a pretty obvious depiction of the Phoenix, and which I'm sure requires no elaboration at this point for anyone who knows enough to even know what the heck we're talking about at all. So, but yeah, there it is. And all the familiar Masonic nonsense going on. But meanwhile, down on the ground, I mean, the protests, of course, spark nationwide and worldwide even. And here in Portland, they actually had a thing the other day where they all marched out onto the Burnside Bridge and laid down on their stomachs with their hands behind their backs, in the position, like solidarity with Floyd. And again, right there, you're looking at something like the irony, right, of when you think about these things symbolically and ritualistically, and the whole people participating in and getting swept up in things and doing things where they don't even understand and all these things colliding together. So you got people protesting all bunched together into a giant crowd, which is a sin in the era of social distancing, but they're wearing masks saying, "I can't breathe," on some of them. Because that's the slogan, the solidarity with Floyd. I can't breathe. And meanwhile, I go outside and my neighbor lady is like gardening in her front yard wearing a face mask. But she, where people literally believe they can't breathe. Like they're not allowed to just breathe normally because it's too dangerous. But now, of course, the national narrative is all about the debate of institutional racism and systemic racism and the police. But again, none of these narratives are new. These are all very old things that have been reintroduced and reignited and, many times, and they're just kind of all feeding off of each other to where you have this weird, we talk about the Hegelian dialectic idea, understandably, because it's in everything they do. But now you have like so many of them going on, these multiple problem, reaction, solution agendas, right? In the name of public health, in the name of peaceful protests versus rioting and all these things. And they're kind of like all mixing together and cross-pollinating into these weird hybrid kaleidoscopes of trauma-based mind control, this fractalized trauma-based mind control. That's really what everything is. It's bringing the public deeper into this very fractured and hypnotized and controlled state. Even when it comes to the outrage, right? Because, again, timing. Right at the end of this period of unprecedented worldwide lockdown, where millions of jobs have been lost and all sorts of tensions are rising and frustrations and people questioning the narrative and all this, and then what a perfect timing to have riots and protests, but not because people were actually at the point of hitting the streets because of opposition to the lockdown. Yes, there were some protests, but not like this. So it's this kind of polarized thing, just as always.